We continue our look at the New York Giants 2023 class of draft picks. Up next, we're going to talk about running back Eric Gray, fifth rounder out of Oklahoma, with special guest Josh Helmer, co-host of Locked On Sooners. That's coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. And you got Patricia Traynor, your host, and I'm talking to my colleagues over at the Locked On College Network. They are fantastic. They are giving us everything we need to know about these Giants draft picks, an exciting draft class. And on today's show, we're going to be talking Eric Gray, running back out of Oklahoma. And joining us to break them all down is co-host of the Locked On Sooners podcast, Josh Helmer. Josh, thanks so much for joining me.
Well, first off, Patty, thank you so much for the invitation. Appreciate you reaching out, and it's great to be with you. Without further ado, let's talk some Eric Gray, shall we?
Yes, definitely. I'm really excited about this pick. Josh, give us an overall thumbnail scouting report of this young man. I know he hasn't been with the Sooners his entire college career, if I'm not mistaken, but what you've seen from him, maybe, I don't know if you followed him before he came to the Sooners, his growth. So let's start with an overall scouting report.
Well, I like myself some Eric Gray. I think sometimes in the NFL, and we see especially at the running back position, you can find somebody like an Eric Gray in the fifth round. I look no further than the Kansas City Chiefs and Isaiah Pacheco. I know the skill sets aren't entirely similar. Pacheco, in terms of the 40-yard dash and things, has tested better than in Eric Gray. I just use that as a value standpoint to say, for Giants fans out there, I would urge you to understand, okay, you're not trying for Saquon Barkley with this Eric Gray pick right here, but if you can find somebody that's a serviceable running back that can, both run and carry the rock and catch out of the backfield with you and find that value in the fifth round, oh man, you love that. So I think that you might have gotten that here with Eric Gray. So just general thoughts on his career. He obviously, yes, was a transfer to the University of Oklahoma. He started out at Tennessee, came to Oklahoma. There was such high expectations, Patty, on who he was going to be at OU coming over from Tennessee. It didn't totally click in year one. We kind of thought there would be a running back battle in Norman, and it wound up being Kennedy Brooks' gig. He was somebody, Kennedy Brooks was, that had opted out for Oklahoma in that 2020 COVID season. So the thought was, okay, is he going to be able to come back and knock the rust off? And it was perceived as this two-man race that year between Kennedy Brooks and Eric Gray, and it really wound up being Kennedy Brooks' job. So there were questions about Eric Gray entering this past season for Oklahoma, and you have to say that he answered all of those questions with flying colors. Finished the year with over 200 carries, north of 1,300 yards. He actually turned in what, for Giants fans that aren't super familiar, in Sooner country, we're pretty proud of Oklahoma football's tradition, and running back would be a position group for Oklahoma that historically, you think about names like Adrian Peterson, you think about names like DeMarco Murray, Billy Sims, to name Heisman's past. It's a decorated position group at OU, and I say that to get to this point. Eric Gray turned in one of the top 10 rushing seasons in OU history last year for Oklahoma, so he had a very, very good final season in Norman, finished with 11 touchdowns. And one thing that Giants fans will love, everybody in the National Football League today, you can't be a one-trick pony. You have to be able to catch out of the backfield too. And Eric Gray, I think, would tell you, okay, that's something, Patty, that I bring to the table, is the ability to catch and go make plays after the catch out of the backfield as well.
He's also a guy who can block. That's a skill that a lot of running backs, especially coming out of college, they don't really do well. But from what I saw on film, he does a pretty decent job of it.
Yes, good in pass protection. And, dating back to his transfer from Tennessee to Oklahoma, one thing that I would want Giants fans to know from this conversation is DeMarco Murray, mentioned his name. He's the running backs coach now at OU, by the way, for those that are not aware of that. Of course, Giants fans maybe not too fondly familiar of DeMarco Murray from his time with the Dallas Cowboys, but you're talking about somebody in DeMarco Murray that, guess what? He had a great OU career, was terrific with the Cowboys. He knows a thing or two about being a running back in the National Football League. And the word that he said from day one with Eric Gray, even in the year where he really wasn't Oklahoma's featured runner, this guy's a pro again and again and again. And when you mentioned pass protection, he's professional in the way that he goes about that portion of the game, because Eric Gray understands I'm not going to have the shelf life that I want to have at the next level with the Giants unless I can operate in all three phases: running the football, catching the football, and obviously pass protection.
Eric Gray, I look at him and he reminds me almost of an Ahmad Bradshaw. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but years ago, back in the 2007, Ahmad Bradshaw drafted in the 7th round, turned out to be a pretty good player. Now, Eric Gray doesn't have maybe the sudden explosiveness of an Ahmad Bradshaw, but he can do all the things that Bradshaw showed he was able to do for the Giants. And Bradshaw turned out to be a sneaky good pick for the New York Giants. But, I want to ask you about a key thing that I think gets overlooked also with running backs. And you tell me how Eric is at this, and that's yards after contact, especially at the second level. How is he at that?
Oh, I think that he's a great yards after contact guy. I don't know that you'd look and he would be at the top of every single board collegiately in that respect, but he's not somebody that's going to shy away from contact. He likes to run in between the tackles. Of course, he can get outside on the perimeter too. Again, we talked about yards after catch, but this is somebody that, he wants the bread and butter to be handed off to me. I'll take it in between the tackles. I'll bounce off of would-be tacklers, and I want to fall forward. So, absolutely, that's part of Eric Gray's game. And when you're somebody that you kind of look at what the NFL Combine results were for Eric Gray, let's hope you're that guy for Eric Gray. And I think that, yes, he will be that guy.
Yeah, the Giants are hoping for that as well, because I think it's possible that the Giants, regardless of what happens with Saquon Barkley, who currently is locked in a contract impasse with the Giants, that maybe the Giants are going to start to gravitate towards more of a committee approach, with maybe having Saquon, the lead guy, and then like Eric Gray and Matt Breida as their, the guys that they rotate in. And certainly, if Eric Gray can come in and just show proficiency in all three of those areas like he did in college, maybe he could become that number 2 guy passing Breida on the depth chart. But, let's go back to the running scheme in Oklahoma. Were they more of a power or zone type of running scheme? And where did Eric excel in that regard?
I don't know that it would matter necessarily what type of schematics the Giants would run. I think that his game would translate to whatever. Now, Oklahoma historically has kind of operated out of that zone blocking scheme, dating back even, to Lincoln Riley and Jeff Lebby. Everything in Oklahoma is predicated on the run, right? And then you can get into your play action sets. So schematically, I would say probably it's honestly a good mix of all of that at Oklahoma. I don't know that they want to say, hey, this is a zone blocking scheme entirely at OU or vice versa. I think they want to be multiple in that respect, but I think Eric Gray will translate in whatever direction the Giants want to head.
How is he with being patient and letting his blocks develop?
I think he's good. Yeah. I think that's one of the things. If you flip on the tape, he doesn't come off the tape as an overzealous runner in that regard. And I think some guys, again, I keep going back to the testing numbers from the combine, but when you don't wow everybody with 4.3, 4.4 and low 4.5 speed, well, let's hope other parts of the game are great. And I do think at times patience, he can be a really patient runner. Let his blockers go do their job and then follow blockers.
Yeah, that's very important, because sometimes these young runners, they come in and they're always looking for the home run ball, and it's not there sometimes. So you just have to pretty much take what's there and work with it. And if you're telling me he's a patient runner, that's certainly going to help him as he moves to the next level. Hey, Giant fans, if you're looking for a delicious snack that doesn't have all the sugar, the carbs, the fat, all the bad stuff, but yet which tastes great, then you got to try a Built Bar or Built Puff. These tasty treats are healthy and amazing with each bar or puff covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like eating a candy bar, but with none of the bad stuff. And unlike a lot of protein bars out there, these actually taste pretty good. They come in a variety of different flavors. You're sure to find one that you're going to like, whether it be a nut or nut-free variety. And they also offer a rotation of limited time flavors, such as my personal favorite, mint brownie. Absolutely love that one. And I highly recommend it when it next comes out. So anyway, with Built Bars and Built Puffs, you're getting a generous dose of protein in every serving, about 17 grams of protein per bar. And most bars have about 130 calories and roughly 4 grams of sugar. And did you know that you don't have to wait for your box to ship from built.com? Anytime you're craving them, just pop into your local Sam's Club or Walmart's and pick up your box today. You're going to enjoy them right away. And they taste really good, by the way, if you refrigerate them. I find they taste really good. It's like eating a frozen chocolate bar, but again, without all the bad stuff. If you prefer, you can go to built.com to place your order and save 15% off your first box with our special promo code LOCKEDON15. Customize your box and they'll get it out to you just as soon as they possibly can. Check them out today, folks. You won't be sorry. And you can thank me later after you've enjoyed your first Built Bar or Built Puff. Now, as a pass catcher, obviously works the flats well. I mean, is he the type who's going to lower his shoulder, try and bowl guys over? Or is he more of a shake and bake type of guy, as I like to call him?
Probably say he's a little more shake and bake.
An elusive guy, somebody who's going to juke you out of your sneakers.
Yeah, a little. He's got a little shiftiness to him. One of the first plays that really stood out from Eric Gray, and take what you will, grain of salt here, but in the spring game, not this past year, obviously, but the year before, one of the big plays was a catch and run by Eric Gray, where it's boom, dance, one cut, and then boom, he's gone 25 plus yards into the end zone. He's not going to be anybody that's going to shy away from contact. So I don't want to portray it in that light, but definitely he's somebody that he's going to be able to dance and make guys miss on the perimeter, even though, again, he's not that, didn't test as that 4.344 guy. I mean, he's football fast, and he's football fast on the perimeter. So I think he's got the propensity to be a very, very good after the catch guy.
All rookies coming into the NFL have things that they need to work on. What does Eric Gray need to do to improve in order to have any kind of impact in his rookie season?
I would just say generically, he's he's got the traits of being a pro, right? DeMarco Murray says, hey, this guy's a pro, but he's going to have to learn how to be a pro, right? I mean, I think that's the case for any rookie. What does my life look like now? He'll adjust to that pretty quickly. Pass protection, I think it's good, but this is going to be a different level. These are different folks that now all of a sudden you're being asked to pass protect. So I would probably say right there, and then just the general physicality. I mean, how does it adjust to the physicality? I would think kind of checks all boxes to me. I think that he'll adjust accordingly, but those would be probably the main things, is just learning to be a professional in general, and then just adjusting to NFL speed probably is the best way to phrase it.
Yeah, and also taking care of the body, because the NFL season can be a little bit longer than the college season. And that's a big thing. That's a big stumbling block for a lot of rookies coming out of school. What about, let's talk the intangibles about Eric Gray. What kind of a guy is he? Is he a loud guy? Is he a quiet guy? Is he a leader, a follower? What can you tell us about him as a person?
Yeah, he's definitely not going to, from my knowledge, what we've seen at Oklahoma, he's not going to be the guy leading the pep rally around the Giants facilities there. But he is one of those lead by example types, which I think every locker room has room for every single type, but he's not going to be the boisterous personality. He's very, again, businesslike. He's very professional in the way he goes about his business. He's a great guy, wonderful young man, Giants fans will fall in love with his character. It would be a shock if there's anything of the character department that ends up as a red flag later. He just doesn't strike you as that type of individual. He's very personable, kind of quiet, keep to himself kind of guy, go about my business. But again, I think folks will learn to like this kid very, very quickly.
What can you tell me about him, from a personal standpoint? Maybe an interesting story, something about his background. I always like the human interest aspect of these young men coming up. So is there anything that kind of jumps out at you that might make for a good feature?
I'm sure there is, not that comes to the top of the mind right now. And I'm sure as soon as we sign off, I'll be kicking myself. Well, why did you not share this? I don't know that there's anything that totally jumps off the page at me initially outside of, hey, here's somebody that came from Tennessee and from day one at Oklahoma was described and regarded by somebody in DeMarco Murray that's not going to use those terms lightly, that, hey, this dude, he's an NFL type guy. He goes about his business in a professional way. And like I said, I'm sure 5 minutes from now, I'll be saying to myself, why did you not say this?
Well, you can always break in and you can always interrupt if something comes to you. I've had that happen to me many times, obviously. When you look at his tape from where he started and when he came to Oklahoma, where do you think the biggest change in his game came about?
I think at Oklahoma, can't speak probably as intelligently about the first couple of years at Tennessee. Now, he was a 500 plus yard rusher that first season at Tennessee, and then 770 or so that second season at Tennessee. I think for Oklahoma, it was just the opportunity to have serious production was the biggest growth for him. I don't know that all of a sudden he turned this mental corner, so to speak. I think he had all of that, from the moment he arrived at Oklahoma. I think it's just they liked Kennedy Brooks. And Kennedy Brooks was maybe a little bit more familiar with what Oklahoma was doing in 2021. And then he got his chance to shine in 22. And we saw all of those traits on full display. Ability to, run through tacklers after the catch, just everything you would look for in a running back. He got his chance to shine in 22 and he made the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you want to see from a player. You don't want to see a guy kind of sit back there. You want to see him be proactive, grab the brass ring, so to speak, and run with it, which it sounds like this young man has done. The other thing, we talk about here in New York is coachability. And, you mentioned DeMarco Murray, absolutely love this guy and whatnot. But, from a growth perspective, just overall speaking, how ready is this young man for the bright lights of New York? Because this is a very tough market to play in. And it takes a special type of personality and understanding to succeed here, because if you don't, you're going to get swallowed up alive. Does he have that, do you think?
Well, and I would hope that me saying somebody like Eric Gray is businesslike and kind of keeps to himself and doesn't have that loud and about personality to him. Don't get that mistaken for he's any stranger to criticism or he can't handle criticism. No, none of that from New York City is going to scare Eric Gray off. I mean, he is, again, he's built to be a professional. He's ready to be a professional. He's very mature in that respect. So, and then the coachability element, again, this is somebody that anybody in the Oklahoma facility would tell you, Eric Gray's a terrific teammate. He's a professional teammate. So all of that, again, there's no character flags here with Eric Gray. He'll be somebody that from day one, you just wait for it. People in New York will be talking about, oh man, this guy is very professional and he's a great teammate.
If there's one thing I should ask Eric Gray, what would that be and why?
Oh man, I'm always curious just to, New York City. Are you kidding me? It's like a great situation to get drafted to. What an awesome city and community to be a part of. So just the generic, hey, what's it like being in New York City? I'd be curious to hear Eric's response to that. But hey, what's it like going from Oklahoma to New York City? This is not Los Angeles to New York City. This is not USC to New York City. This is, somebody that was at Tennessee and now Oklahoma, and now it's the bright lights of New York City. So just how is he adjusting? I'd be curious.
Yeah, but Oklahoma's a pretty big deal with their football there. I mean, it's not like he's going from some tiny program to now all of a sudden the big bright lights.
No, not in terms of expectation and pressure, but a little bit of a difference between Oklahoma City and New York City.
Well, technically, it's not New York City. We're in the shadows of New York City. We're technically North Jersey, but I get your point. It's the market. It's the New York market, and he's probably going to see a heck of a lot more media than he probably saw while at Oklahoma, because the New York market, I think, is the largest media market behind, and then LA would be the second largest. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm excited. He was a guy that I had as a prospective Giant. And like I said, I think ultimately you could see him, if everything clicks for him, you could see him work into a rotation with Saquon Barkley. It would certainly help Saquon, preserve some of the hits that he's been taking over the years as being the bell cow. So overall, it sounds like the Giants got us a good one.
I think so. I think you'll be very happy with one Mr. Eric Gray. And hey, the Oklahoma pipeline has worked in the past for the New York Giants. So hopefully this is shades of one Sterling Shepard, the positive moments for Sterling Shepard. So it's not as though Giants fans are totally unfamiliar with OU. But hey, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. And best of luck to the coverage. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on meeting Eric Gray. And let's hope this is somebody that's, an all-time Giants great. Who knows?
Yes, absolutely. All right, Giant fans, he is Josh Helmer, co-host of Locked On Sooners. And Josh, you're also on the radio. Tell people where they can find you on the radio.
Well, it's super easy. So I'm on the Ref Radio Network, what we like to call it down here in Oklahoma, but we're worldwide, baby, just like everybody now. Just download our app. KREF, that's the free and easy app for any Sooner fans that might be also Giants fans watching this. So KREF, 94.7 FM. I'm on 9 to noon with Mr. Chris Plank.
All right. And he co-hosts Locked On Sooners with Mr. John Williams. So make sure you check that podcast out, Giant fans. Again, I've been talking all week long about the tremendous job our college hosts do. Do check them out. They cover more than just football. They cover all the sports. They cover the transfer portals, the signings, all that good stuff. And my gosh, I don't know how you guys do it, how you keep up with all that stuff, but I tip my cap to all of you.
Organized zaniness, as I'm sure as a longtime reporter, you understand. It's just part of the territory.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this segment with Josh Helmer. Giant fans, stay tuned. We've got more coming up on today's Locked On Giants episode. And also, we still have more draft picks to talk about throughout the week. Make sure you keep it here all week long, into the weekend, into next week, and the week beyond that, here on the Locked On Giants podcast. We'll be right back after this. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And did I not tell you that Josh was great? That's a lot of great stuff that he gave us about Eric Gray. And if you're not excited about this particular draft pick, then I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, coming up on the Locked On Giants podcast, we have a couple more draft picks. We're going to talk about the 2 7th rounders. That'll be on Tuesday and Wednesday show. I'm going to try this week to get you a live show with Tana and the dog. Keep you posted on that. So if I can pull it off, I will post a note over on the YouTube community, as well as working into a show if I can pull it off with those two guys. So anyway, to close out today's show, I've got a couple of listener submitted questions that I wanted to get to. These are questions that I did not include in this past weekend's Giants Country mailbag because I wanted to save them specifically for the podcast. So let me just pull them up here and we'll go ahead and answer them. All right. This first one comes from Andrew G, who wants to know, for practice squad players, if they are signed by another team, can they refuse and stay with the original team? Yes, Andrew, they can, but a lot of them don't. Because, when another team comes calling, it's usually to take them off the practice squad and put them on the 53-man roster, which, of course, pays more. Now, there are recent cases where, it's taken a little bit of coaxing. For example, Davis Webb last year, the Dolphins came calling and he turned them down. Gerard Davis, when he was with the Lions, the Giants tried to sign him several times before he finally decided to join the team. So absolutely a player can say, no, I don't want to join your roster. They do have that option if they are on the practice squad. All right. You also asked, do you think Andre Patterson can unlock any pass rush potential with Nacho, which is Raheem Nunez Roches, and Ashawn Robinson? At this point, Andrew, I would say those guys probably are what they are. Can Andre Patterson unlock additional things, help them become better players? I mean, I believe no matter how many years a guy has been in the league and how good or bad he might be at something, there's always room for improvement. And I think every player will tell you that. But that being said, I don't know if there's, at this point in those two guys' respective careers, I'm not sure if they have the physical tools to become pass rushers. Technique is one thing. Having the physical tools, like that quick burst off the snap, that's quite another thing. So I don't want to say no because you never know, but I would say those guys are probably what you see is what you're going to get from those guys. So thanks for the question, Andrew. Appreciate you. All right. This next question is from Pat S., who asks, well, actually, it's a comment according to him. I think the key to the offense is going to the next level. And a huge piece of how successful the Giants are going to be this season is going to be the development of Evan Neal. If he shows growth all similar to what Andrew Thomas was able to do after year one, I think the speed that the Giants brought in during the offseason will be allowed to play, and it would also open things up underneath. If he were to stay stagnant, it could short circuit our growth on offense. What do you think? Yeah, Pat, look, I think everybody is counting on Evan Neal being better this year. There's no doubt about it. You don't want to have to put a whole lot of help on any one side, because now you're kind of telegraphing to the opponent that maybe you've got a weak spot. So yeah, I do agree with you that Evan Neal's growth is going to be very important. Do I think it, if God forbid he doesn't take that step forward, it'll slow the offense down? No, not necessarily, because the coaching staff can scheme around that if they need to. Again, you'd rather not have to go that path, but if you do, you can scheme around it. And, look, if Evan Neal doesn't take that step forward like Andrew Thomas did in year two, then this team better reevaluate what it's doing at that right tackle spot. But look, I'm optimistic that he's going to get better. I know Willie Anderson, when I spoke to him a few weeks ago on the podcast, was optimistic he was going to get better. There's a lot of optimism there, but we need to see it. And we won't see it, obviously, until the pads go on and the offensive lineman can really, knock heads with the defensive lineman. So fingers crossed, my friend. Hopefully we won't be talking about Evan Neal in a negative in a negative way, saying that he is a liability to this offensive system. So, all right, Giant fans, that is going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast. Remember, if you have a question that you want to get on, send it to me. You can tweet it to me at Patricia_Traina with the hashtag AskPTrade. You can email it to me at lockedongiantspodcast@gmail.com. You can post it if you're watching on YouTube, you can post a comment under this video. I do check the comments, or try to check the comments every day. So yeah, send me a question and I'll answer it. You can also send it to me over on Instagram. My Instagram account is at PattyTraina, PattiTraina. You'll want to be following me there, by the way, because that's where I post videos, audio clips, and all the stuff that's going to be coming up from the upcoming OTAs, which start in another week or so, as well as the mandatory minicamp and beyond. So make sure you're following me there as well. Thank you, Giant fans, for tuning in and listening to the Locked On Giants podcast. We will have Spencer McLaughlin on tomorrow from Locked On Ducks, and he will tell us about Jordan Riley, one of the two Giants 7th round draft picks. Don't miss it. We'll see you tomorrow, Giant fans.